In April 1912, the world watched a machine take to the ocean that represented the crowning achievement of early 20th century engineering. The public treated its safety as a settled fact, a vessel so advanced it appeared to have finally conquered the risks of the sea. Inside, passengers experienced a level of opulence previously unimaginable at sea. The immense scale and the intricate carved wood reinforced a singular message that human ingenuity had created a fortress against the Atlantic. Yet a vessel built to withstand the harshest elements on Earth would vanish entirely beneath the Atlantic in a matter of hours. Thousands of people and thousands of tons of steel simply gone. We treat this as a random act of nature, but the historical record points to a sequence of human failures. The disaster was effectively a choice, built through a series of preventable decisions made long before the ship reached the ice. The very reputation for invincibility that defined the Titanic created its fatal vulnerability. When failure is treated as impossible, the preparations required to survive it are the first things to be abandoned. This chart shows how behavior responds to perceived invincibility. As confidence rises toward 100%, preparation for failure plummets to 0. This cognitive bias created a dangerous feedback loop where extraordinary success inherently breeds severe complacency. When leadership reaches this psychological state, active warning signs are no longer viewed as genuine threats to survival. They are treated merely as irrelevant annoyances standing in the way of the schedule. The true origin of the disaster didn't begin in the ice fields of the North Atlantic. It began the very moment the builders proudly stamped the word unsinkable onto their creation. On the night of the collision, the environmental conditions were highly unusual. The water was completely flat, lacking any waves or disturbance, an eerie, deceptive calm that made it nearly impossible to spot obstacles in the dark. The wireless room received multiple, highly specific reports of thick ice from other ships navigating the exact same area. The crew logged them, but leadership ultimately brushed them aside. The order remained to push forward at high speed through a known danger zone. Slowing the engines would mean admitting physical risk and compromising the timeline. When the impact finally happened, it defied expectations. There was no massive explosion or catastrophic crash. Instead, a colossal wall of ice scraped along the hull, making a series of small, quiet punctures safely beneath the waterline. Because the surface-level decks remained pristine, the illusion of safety held firm. Passengers felt a slight vibration and simply went back to their evening, completely oblivious to the freezing ocean pouring in below their feet. A slow, silent system failure is lethal. It allows everyone to maintain the comfortable fiction that things are fine, eating up the critical time needed to react until the physical reality is impossible to ignore. And when the physical reality finally demanded a reaction, a severe mathematical flaw became obvious. There were over 2,200 people on board, and enough lifeboats for only a fraction of them. The architects originally planned for more boats, but leadership reduced the number. It made the vessel appear less luxurious, and ironically, less safe to the paying public. This cross-section schematic illustrates the cascading failure happening below deck. Water filled one compartment, then inevitably began spilling over the internal walls into the next, mathematically guaranteeing the ship's total destruction. As the tilt of the deck grew steeper, the facade shattered. Chaos replaced order. Survival instantly devolved into a brutal calculation of social status, class, and who had physical access to the few remaining boats. Prioritizing the appearance of invincibility over the reality of basic preparation directly turned a survivable accident into one of the most famous mass tragedies in human history. By the early hours of the morning, the engineering marvel of the century was gone. All that remained were a few dozen wooden boats, floating alone in the freezing darkness. The shockwave hit the mainland hard. The global public was suddenly forced to grapple with the utter destruction of a machine they had been told was immune to the laws of nature. The historical forensic verdict is clear. The sinking did not happen because of a single mistaken turn at the wheel. It was the inevitable result of a compounding chain of extreme overconfidence and actively dismissed warnings. We look back at 1912 and wonder how they could be so blind. Yet this exact behavioral flaw repeats continuously across modern tech companies, financial markets, and global industries. This flowchart illustrates the endless cycle of human failure. High competence breeds confidence. Confidence unchecked becomes arrogance. Arrogance ignores the data, and ignored risk inevitably results in disaster. The warning signs are always there. Disasters strike with the highest severity the moment society assumes a corporation, a financial system, or a piece of technology is simply too big to fail. If you want to spot these hidden vulnerabilities before the water reaches the upper decks, subscribe to Fall and Rise of Chronicles, because the next story might change how you view the systems you trust every day.